I've been working as a night security guard at the hospital for a while now. I'm 32, just trying to pay off some debt and help my mom. The nights are always quiet, but last week was different. It felt like I was walking through a ghost town, just dark corridors, and my footsteps echoing back to me. One night I was doing my rounds when I noticed a flickering light coming from the pediatric wing. That was strange. The area is supposed to be empty. My heart started racing a little. I walked down the corridor towards that light. I heard laughter. It was soft, almost playful, and it sent chills down my spine. I thought, maybe I was just imagining it. I checked the examination room. It was empty, just me and the quiet. Shaking my head, I told myself I must be tired. The next night was worse. I found crayon drawings on the walls. They looked odd, depicting things I didn't recognize. Panic creeping in. I thought about the notes I read near the nurse's station. Stories about kids who disappeared from this hospital years ago. My stomach dropped. I tried to push those thoughts away. It felt wrong, but I had a job to do. That night, the laughter returned. It echoed off the walls, louder this time as I entered the pediatric wing again. I felt like I was covered in sweat trying to convince myself it was nothing. I looked around. More drawings were there. They felt different. Darker, almost haunting. I felt a cold grip on my heart. Every fiber of my being wanted to leave. Then I saw it. A shadowy figure at the end of the corridor. It looked like a child, but dim light made it hard to tell. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice echoed back to me, but the figure just stood still. I couldn't move. I felt frozen, like something heavy was holding me there. The laughter got louder, ringing in my ears. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. I stumbled back, my heart racing. I thought I might be sick. I swear I felt a cold breath against my neck. I knew I needed to get out of there, but my shift wasn't over yet and the door felt a mile away. Then the laughter stopped. I looked back towards the figure. It was closer now. I felt panic explode in me. I shouted, "Leave me alone!" Nothing. The corridor was empty, but the weight of what I felt pressed down on me. I needed to leave, but it felt like I was stuck in a nightmare. The last hour of my shift dragged on painfully. I did my rounds, heart pounding, listening for every creak and whisper. By the time my shift finally ended, I was a mess. I rushed out of that hospital, but I couldn't shake that feeling. I still think about the laughter in the shadow. I didn't look back. I don't want to know what I might see. That hospital felt like a movie from my nightmares, and I'm afraid I'll never be the same. I tried to forget about the hospital. I really did. But that laughter haunted me. During the day, I'd keep myself busy with chores. But at night, it felt like the darkness crept into my home, wrapping around me tighter each time I closed my eyes. I told myself I wouldn't go back, but the bills had a way of arguing otherwise. On my third night back, I walked through the doors of the hospital, wondering if I'd really lost my mind. As I strapped on my belt and adjusted my flashlight, I felt a tight knot in my stomach. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, throwing shadows that seemed to dance in the corners. I took a deep breath, hoping this night would be uneventful. My rounds felt the same at first. The wards were empty, and quietness filled the air. But when I reached the pediatric wing, I hesitated. I stepped softly, feeling the cold tiles beneath my shoes. My heart quickened again as I saw the flickering light from earlier. With slow steps, I approached the source. A door was ajar. The light spilled into the hallway, pulsing like a heartbeat. I peeked inside. It was a storage room, cluttered with old toys and medical supplies. A tattered teddy bear sat on a chair, its button eyes glistening in the light. Before I could process what I was seeing, a sudden crash jolted me back. I jumped but gathered my courage and rushed into the room. The sound came from what looked like a shadow moving behind a stack of cardboard boxes. My breath hitched as I called out, "Who's there?" Silence. Just the thud of my heart echoing in my ears. I shouldn't have stepped closer, should have turned and left, but something kept me there, pulling me toward the boxes. My fingers brushed the cardboard, and I felt a chill wash over me. Suddenly the light flickered out, In the darkness, my instincts kicked in, and I wheeled around. The flickering returned, illuminating a shape that made my stomach drop. A small figure standing near the doorframe. I squinted, trying to see more clearly. Then that laughter bubbled up again, light and airy, yet somehow laced with a hint of menace. This time I couldn't shout. My voice evaporated into the darkness. The figure took a step forward, and I saw it more clearly. A girl wearing a hospital gown that looked decades old. Her hair hung in tangled strands, and her eyes were wide, staring right at me. I stumbled back, adrenaline rushing through me. I wanted to bolt out of that room, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "Get away from me," I finally managed to say, the words coming out harsher than I intended. The little girl tilted her head, which only made her seem more eerie. I blinked hard, willing my mind to accept that I was seeing a ghost. I backed away slowly, never breaking eye contact, until I hit the wall behind me. And just like that, she vanished, as if she'd never been there at all. I didn't stick around to figure out what happened. I rushed out of the pediatric wing, nearly tripping over my own feet. There was an unease that hung in the air, a tension that promised my encounters weren't over yet. What did she want? Why was she there? Now I knew I had to find answers, but part of me was terrified of what those answers might bring. The next night, I gave myself a pep talk before going to work. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. I was there to do a job, nothing more. I walked through the hospital doors, the usual fluorescent buzz welcoming me back to my haunted routine. Still, my heart raced as I thought about the little girl. I knew I needed to be more vigilant. I began my rounds, deliberately avoiding the pediatric wing. The emergency room, on the other hand, felt its own kind of eerie. It buzzed with hushed conversations from the staff and flickering televisions, yet my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't shake the memory of her face. After an hour, I finally found the courage to peek back into the pediatric wing. The familiar coldness brushed against my skin like a whisper. I stepped inside, scanning every corner, expecting to see her lurking there. Nothing, just darkness and silence. Yet the sensation of being watched was palpable. I felt my pulse quicken and took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay focused. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of a hastily scribbled note pinned to the wall. It had clearly been there a while, yellowed and curled at the edges. My curiosity got the better of me and I moved closer. The words were dark. "She needs someone to play with." A chill trailed down my spine. Was this related to the girl? Did she leave this note? I quickly backed away from the wall, my heart drumming a relentless beat. I needed to get out of there. As I turned around, I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. I froze. My breath hitched again. The door to the storage room was swinging slightly as if someone had just come out. "Hello?" I called, forcing my voice to remain steady. No response, just the quiet hum of the hospital filling the air. Moving cautiously, I approached the door. The light flickered in the room again, betraying the stillness outside. I steadied myself and stepped inside. The teddy bear sat back on the chair, staring blankly at me. I reached for it, considering moving it elsewhere to see if it prompted any reaction. Then it happened. Something pushed against my back. I stumbled forward into the room before the sudden weight let go, as if someone had just been standing behind me. I swung around, the flashlight beam revealing emptiness. "What the hell?" My words echoed off the walls. That's when I saw it. A trail of tiny footprints in the dust leading away from the room. The small indentations barely marked the floor. But they were there, proof I wasn't alone. I fought back panic, telling myself they could belong to a child who once visited here. Yet the memory of the girl's laughter sent a shudder down my spine. With nowhere else to go, I followed the prints. They led me deeper into the darkened sections of the hospital I rarely explored. As I walked, that laughter filled the air once more, clearer this time. It floated around me, guiding me forward, pulling me deeper into the unknown. Then everything went dark. The power flickered off, and plunging into complete blackness left me disoriented. I raised my flashlight, but the beam was weak, barely cutting through the thick, clinging shadows. Suddenly there were whispers. Hushed and urgent, they surrounded me. I couldn't tell where they were coming from, but it was clear I was no longer alone. The whispers grew louder, dancing around me like errant leaves on a gusty day. I strained to understand, but they were just out of reach. Panic tightened in my throat. I didn't want to be here. Not like this. Moving cautiously, my feet shuffled over the dust-covered floor as I tried to find a way out. I swept my flashlight across the walls, searching for any sign of movement. The cold air wrapped around me as if breathing itself had become a challenge. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was just my job. Just another night. Then I heard it again. Laughter, the unmistakable sound of a child's giggle. I turned, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl or someone else, but the hallway seemed as empty as before. The laughter echoed, fading into a melody that made my skin crawl. Suddenly, the flashlight spotlighted a shadow moving against the far wall. I squinted, almost hoping it was just a trick of my mind. But it wasn't. The shape darted past, too quick for me to focus. My heart raced. "Who's there?" I shouted. Silence. The weight of the darkness crashed down around me. I stepped forward, keenly aware of the way my breath echoed in the hollow space. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but I had to know what was going on. I needed answers. Thinking back to the chase, I remembered the footprints. I followed them, my feet finding their way through the shadows. They led me to a small alcove just off the main corridor, a rarely used area reserved for storage. When I stepped inside, a cold gust seemed to swirl around me, making the hairs on my arms stand up. I aimed my flashlight toward the far wall and froze. The light flickered and illuminated a series of drawings, scribbled hastily in crayon. They were childish but disturbing. There were stick figures resembling a girl with wide, hollow eyes, and a dark shape looming behind her. My stomach twisted at the sight. Below the drawings, one figure stood out, a girl with braided hair, hands raised as if begging for something. I was about to back away when a soft voice broke through the silence. "You can't leave yet." The words were filled with an unsettling sweetness. I whipped around, the flashlight beam illuminating nothing but air. "Who are you?" I demanded, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out any other sound. My mind raced. The laughter, the note, the drawings. What did it all mean? "I'm waiting for you to play." The voice was behind me again, now clearer, more present. I turned to confront the shadow, but I found only the darkness. I had to get out. I turned back to the hallway and sprinted. The whispers had escalated into a cacophony, urging me to stay. I stumbled, my pulse racing, barely able to breathe with fear. Just as I reached the door, it swung shut, slamming in front of me. A figure stood just beyond the glass, their face obscured by shadows. They smiled, and I felt a chill snap through me. I wasn't meant to leave. I had stepped too far into a realm that didn't want me to go. In one swift movement, I banged on the door, desperate for an escape. "Let me out!" I shouted. The laughter returned, echoing louder, drowning out my voice. I realized then, I was trapped in a nightmare of someone else's making. But what would they want with me? I banged on the door again, adrenaline surging. With each thud, the figure outside tilted their head, their grin growing in size. I could see it in the dim light, a darkness that seemed to spread like a shadow. I stepped back, my instincts screaming at me to run, but the door wouldn't budge. "Please, let me out," I begged. The laughter swirled around me, taunting and relentless. I turned, scanning the alcove for any other escape route, anything to keep the creeping dread at bay. Then, I noticed something in the corner, a window dusty and cracked. Desperation gave me a surge of strength. I sprinted over, my flashlight beam bouncing off the glass. It was small, but I could fit through if I could just break it. Just as I raised my arm to smash the glass, the whispers intensified, forming words that sent chills down my spine. "Stay. Play with us." I hesitated, feeling the pull of the darkness around me. The drawings on the wall flashed in my mind. The girl with hollow eyes. What was she begging for? Suddenly, the door behind me creaked open. I turned slowly, my heart racing. The figure was gone. I darted back to the door, catching my breath. "This isn't funny," I shouted into the darkness. I stepped out into the hallway again, but there was no one, just the remnants of whispers that faded into a soft echo. I needed to get back to the main floor. I hurried down the corridor, my flashlight flickering under the strain. Each step felt heavier, as though shadows were reaching out to pull me back. The hall finally opened into the main area. I let out a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. On the floor, just in front of the nurse's station, I saw something glinting. I crouched, my heart pounding at the prospect of finding something useful. It was a small silver locket, tarnished but unmistakable. I opened it carefully, revealing a faded photograph of a girl. The same girl from the drawings. My stomach twisted again as recognition hit me. A soft giggle floated around me, echoing louder as if gathering strength. I stood abruptly, clutching the locket like a lifeline. "What do you want?" I yelled. My voice bounced off the walls, swallowed by the heavy silence that followed. The lights flickered, plunging the room into temporary darkness. Anxiety clamored in the pit of my stomach. Then, the laughter returned, the cold sound wrapping around me. "Play with me. Please." It was no longer just a voice. I could feel a presence, a weight in the air that pressed against my skin. Something was coming. I bolted toward the exit, adrenaline driving me. As I reached the front desk, I glanced back. That dark figure reemerged at the end of the hall, smaller, but with hollow eyes that pierced through the dimness, locking onto me with an intensity that stole my breath. What had I gotten myself into? I rushed through the exit doors, expecting to feel the cool night air on my skin. Instead, I stumbled into a fog, thick and oppressive. I was no longer sure where I was. Then, the laughter came again, surrounding me like a mist as I realized it would not end until I played their game. The fog swallowed me whole, wrapping around my legs like a living thing. It was unnaturally cold. I strained to see through the haze, but it only amplified my disorientation. I took a step back, trying to find the door I had just rushed through. Panic clawed at my chest when I realized I was completely lost. The laughter persisted, a haunting sound that seemed to echo in all directions. "Play with me." The words ricocheted around me, bouncing off unseen walls. I pressed my hand against the nearest surface, feeling the dampness of a brick wall. My flashlight flickered again, threatening to plunge me into total darkness. Just then, a faint glow emerged through the fog. I hesitated, unsure if the light was a welcoming beacon or another trap. The laughter faded slightly as I inched forward, my pulse quickening. The glow grew brighter, allowing me to make out shapes, rows of benches under a large pavilion. An eerie stillness layered the place like it was holding its breath. I stepped into the light, scanning the area. The benches were worn, covered with dust. They circled around a small stage, where a crude puppet theater stood. The puppets hung limply, their expressions frozen in fear. One looked like the girl from the locket, a tiny figure with hollow eyes that seemed to gaze straight through me. My stomach rolled again. "This is insane," I muttered under my breath, taking a step back. I turned to leave the pavilion, but something caught my eye. A piece of paper lay crumpled on the ground. My heart raced as I crouched to pick it up. It was a crude drawing, a child's drawing featuring the very puppets from the theater. In the corner, a message scrawled in shaky letters read, "Help us. Play for their freedom." Then, the laughter returned, sharper this time. I dropped the paper, backing away slowly. "No! No!" The puppets began to sway, the strings above them twitching as though pulled by unseen hands. I turned to run, desperate to escape this nightmare, but the fog began to swirl, blocking my path back. The presence I felt before intensified. I could almost hear breathing, but it was disjointed and unnatural. I pressed forward into the thick, suffocating mist. The laughter echoed louder, layering over each other, a cacophony of voices begging, pleading, until it turned into screams. I staggered, confusion and fear clouding my mind. "What do you want from me?" I shouted into the abyss. Suddenly, a figure dashed past me, moving fast enough to leave a breeze in its wake. I caught just a glimpse of it, a child's silhouette, hair flowing behind them. My breath hitched. "Wait!" I called out, following without thinking. I ran deeper into the fog, blindly chasing the figure, my heart pounding. "Where are you going?" I shouted, but the laughter transformed into cries for help, echoing from all sides now. Then, everything went silent. The sudden shift felt like a heart-stopping trap. I was alone again. I turned around, squinting into the murky surroundings. My flashlight flickered one last time before going out completely. I stood frozen, breathing hard, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching me. That's when I noticed the stage again, the puppets now moving on their own. They began to perform, their mouths opened and closed, mimicking a haunting song. The same song I heard in fragments throughout the halls of the hospital. The game was not over. It had just begun. I didn't know what to do next. The puppets danced, their movements jerky and unnatural. It was a twisted mockery of a play, and I couldn't tear my eyes away. I felt like a spectator in a nightmare, unable to look away from the horror unfolding before me. Before I could regain my senses, a low rumble echoed through the pavilion. The sound of footsteps. I whirled around, heart racing, scanning the fog for any sign of movement. The game was changing, and it felt dangerously close to becoming real. The laughter had turned sinister, a chorus of chilling voices blending together, rising into a fever pitch. I backed up against the wall, hoping to steady my breathing. "Please, just leave me alone," I yelled, uncertain if anyone or anything could hear me. And then I saw her. The girl from the locket. She stood at the edge of the fog, her eyes wide and pleading. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The sight of her sent waves of dread crashing over me. I had to help. But how? I was no hero. I was just a scared security guard thrust into a situation beyond my understanding. "I don't know how," I managed to reply, my voice trembling. She stepped forward, closer to the edge of the light. "Play with them. You must play their game," she urged, her voice barely a whisper. The puppets froze at her words, their song turning off like a light switch. An eerie silence filled the space again, shattered only by the sound of my hammering heart. The girl stared intently at me, and I could see desperation etched on her small, frail frame. "Why do you want me to play?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. I felt trapped. There was something more to her plea, something I couldn't grasp. "Your laughter can set them free. Just help me," she replied, her image flickering like a faulty projector. I squinted, trying to focus on her through the growing mist. It dawned on me, the laughter, the game. They were all intertwined. I can't sing," I said, panic gnawing at me. "I have to get you out," she said, her words sharp with urgency. "You must believe. Just reach for the strings." The laughter returned, rising again, as shadows danced along the edges of my vision. I felt lost, like a pawn in a game I didn't understand. Gathering my courage, I stepped toward the stage, drawn to the strings that hung above the puppets. But then I heard it. Footsteps that were not mine. They grew louder, heavy, and deliberate. Someone, or something, was coming closer. "No!" I shouted, instinctively spinning around. With my back to the puppets, I felt a chill creep up my spine as the fog thickened. I couldn't stay here any longer. It was a trap. I had to choose now, either to confront the puppets and their dark magic, or find a way out before whatever was approaching revealed itself. That's when I saw it, a glint of metal in the fog, casting a harsh light. A knife? A key? My mind raced. I had to make a decision. Everything in me wanted to run, but some part of me knew I had to confront this darkness. The game was escalating swiftly, and I was right in the center of it. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. The glint of metal beckoned, cutting through the fog like a beacon. I hesitated, my heart thumping in my chest. Was it a key, a way out? Or was it a knife, ready to ensnare me in whatever dark game was playing out? The footsteps grew closer, and I could hear the slithering sounds wrapping around me, the mirthful laughter creeping into my bones. I turned, the fog swirling thick around me. The girl was still there, her figure wavering like a candle about to go out. But I couldn't take my eyes off the source of the light. With a shaky step forward, I reached for the glinting object. My fingers closed around it. I realized it was just a key, a rusty old hospital key with a faded number etched into it. My pulse quickened. Could this be the key to unlocking whatever fate awaited me here? But before I could ponder its significance, a figure emerged from the fog. A tall silhouette shrouded in shadows advanced slowly. It was human-like, its features lost in the mist, but I felt a malevolence radiating from it. Panic surged through my veins. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice quaking. My grip on the key tightened, suddenly feeling more like a weapon than a lifeline. "Just a player in this game," the figure replied, its voice gravelly and twisted. It moved closer, and I could see a crooked smile forming. "You've been invited to join us. Isn't that what you wanted?" "No," I shouted, heart racing. "I'm not a part of this." The laughter grew louder, echoing through the pavilion. "Oh, but you already are. You have something we need," it said, pointing a long, bony finger at the girl's fading figure. "She needs your laughter. You can set her free." The girl cried out, "Please!" Her voice sliced through the cacophony, and I felt a raw rush of empathy. "You can help me. Just let go." With every ounce of defiance within me, I raised the key high. "Stay away from us!" I shouted, feeling a surge of power. I meant to use the key, but for what? I felt foolish, as if I was holding a child's toy in front of a monster. The figure paused, confusion flickering across its face. If it had a face beneath all those shadows. I seized the moment. I ran toward the stage, driven by a desperate hope. If the girl was right, laughter could change everything. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to remember a time I truly laughed, to summon the joy trapped inside me. The wall of fog seemed to pulse with my heartbeat. "Hey," I called out, my voice shaky. "I'll play, just let her go." The laughter ceased. The shadows shimmered, and the puppets froze again, their movement stilled in the stillness. But the figure only grew closer. "Too late," it hissed. "The game has already begun." Suddenly, the fog erupted around me, swirling with a life of its own. I stumbled back, and just as I thought I might scream, everything went dark. A deep void swallowed the light, wrapping around my senses like a shroud. In that moment of eerie silence, one chilling thought consumed me. How could I ever escape this nightmarish game when the rules themselves felt beyond my grasp? I woke up to the sound of distant echoes. The fog had lifted, but I was no longer in the pavilion. I found myself sprawled on an old wooden floor, damp and cold beneath me. The walls were lined with peeling paint, and a single flickering bulb above cast a weak glow. My heart raced. Where was I? I sat up slowly, rubbing my head. The last thing I remembered was the fog swallowing me. As I looked around, attempts to piece together what had happened felt futile. A door loomed on one side of the room, slightly ajar. I crept towards it, heart pounding with every step. But before I could reach the door, a sudden movement at the edge of my vision caught my attention. I turned. In the corner of the room stood the girl from before. She was clearer now, her face more defined, but fear tinged her features. "Why did you come here?" she whispered, her eyes wide with worry. "You shouldn't have done that." I thought I could help you," I stuttered, confusion mixing with frustration. "What is this place?" "This is where we're trapped," she said, her voice quaking. "The game has many layers and you've stumbled right into the center of it. They'll want to take you too." "Who? What do you mean?" I asked, glancing back at the door. An unsettling feeling gnawed at me. "Darkness feeds on fear," she replied. "You showed strength when you raised the key, but they want to twist that. You must find a way to laugh again before it consumes you." As she spoke, the shadows seemed to creep closer to us, curling around the corners of the room, whispering soft, sinister sounds that sent a chill down my spine. I backed away instinctively, breathing hard. Suddenly, the door swung open, revealing the tall figure that had spoken to me before. Its face still obscured, it loomed larger inside the doorway. "Ah, I see you've already met," it hissed with a cruel mixture of delight and malice. "Welcome back, little player." "Get away from her," I shouted, instinctively putting myself between the figure and the girl. "Such bravery," it mockingly applauded. But it won't save you. The shadows swelled around it, dark tendrils slithering across the floor toward us. I had to do something. The rusted key still clutched tightly in my hand felt more real now. Was it a weapon? A tool? With a trembling hand, I raised it toward the figure. "What does this key do?" I yelled, hoping for an answer. It chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "It unlocks the true laughter inside you. But why would I let you do that, when I can make you scream instead?" Before I could react, the shadows surged forward, as if drawn by my fear. I closed my eyes. A memory flashed through my mind, a moment of genuine laughter shared with friends at a careless time. I longed for it, but the laughter felt buried under layers of darkness. Then I remembered her pleading look. "I will laugh again, I promise," I shouted defiantly. The room trembled as my words broke through the gloom. At that moment, something snapped within me. A bubbling sensation surged up, as if laughter was just waiting to be unleashed. The shadows recoiled slightly, and the girl's expression shifted to one of hope. But as the figure's laughter echoed around me, I realized what I truly needed to unleash and where the final confrontation lay. Could I find that laughter in a place so heavy with despair? And then, right before I could break free, I saw it. An image through the swirling fog, a door beyond the darkness. It beckoned, but was it the way out? Or just another trap? The door loomed before me, a thin sliver of light piercing through the thick darkness that swirled around like a living entity. I could feel it pulling at me, tugging at the corners of my mind with an urgency that was both terrifying and electrifying. My heart raced as I glanced back at the figure, the shadows winding around it like snakes. "Don't let it take you," the girl whispered, edging closer to me, her voice barely a thread of sound amidst the chaos. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I would give in to the darkness. I had come too far, had felt that spark of laughter pushing against the terrifying weight of despair. "Play with me," the figure taunted, the shadows contorting as its form shifted, trying to lure me back with false promises of joy nestled in darkness. It's so much more fun when you just give in. Taking a deep breath and bolstered by the girl's presence, I turned to the door. I needed to trust my instinct, not just run away, but take action. I raised the rusty key with determination. What if it was more than a mere key? What if it was the catalyst for liberation, the bridge between fear and laughter? I felt the weight of countless shadows pressing against me, trying to suffocate the very essence of hope. In that moment of despair and defiance, I broke through the grip of doubt. "No!" I shouted, my voice resonating through the ethereal gloom. "I refuse to play your game anymore." The shadows shrieked and the figure flinched, thrown off balance by my sudden resolve. Taking advantage, I dashed toward the door. I had to know what lay beyond. As I reached it, I felt an unseen force clawing at me, desperate to hold me back. With a swift movement, I inserted the key into the lock. My hands trembled, but I turned it with fierce intent. There was a creaking sound, followed by the shrill shriek of something not wanting to release its grasp. The door swung open, revealing a blinding light. The laughter, childish and bright, swirled out like a gentle breeze washing over me. "Go!" the girl urged, her figure flickering but resolute. "You have to believe." I lunged through the doorway and the world exploded into color. I stumbled into a sprawling park, vibrant and alive, a cheerful place teeming with laughter and sunshine. Children played in the distance, their giggles echoing in the air, banishing the remnants of darkness that lingered behind me. But even as I caught my breath, I couldn't shake the questions that clawed at my mind. Was it really over? Had I escaped the clutches of the darkness? I turned back toward the door, still ajar, revealing only shadow and fog from which I had just come. What if it still waited, just within reach, ready to pull me back at the moment's weakness? "I'll come back for you," I whispered, unsure if the girl could hear me. Time passed indistinctly as the laughter of children surrounded me, blending with the sunshine streaming down. But the ominous feeling didn't quite dissipate. I explored the park, laughing with the children who didn't see shadows lurking. Yet, every so often I would catch sight of a small, shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye, watching from the tree line. A hollow-eyed girl in an old hospital gown, pleading for attention. Sometimes when the night settled and silence fell over my room like a cloak of unease, I could still hear that laughter echoing in my ears, urging me to remember what lay ahead, in the darkness, in the fog. I tried to figure it all out, but I found that the questions remained. Was the girl freed? Would she ever find peace? Would I need to confront that darkness again? I still think about it sometimes, especially on restless nights when the wind howls just right. I can almost hear her voice rising above the shadows, calling me back to play. Maybe, just maybe, I'll return one day. If only to unravel the final threads of the game I never meant to join.